Good evening. Welcome to our weekly intercontinental smorgasbord of booze and schmooze with me, Nick Luck, not in TW11 this week, rather in Spain on vacation. What am I doing on vacation doing this show, you ask? Well, I am that committed to you, the viewer of Cocktails and Conversation, our mutual love of alcohol and horse racing. I have a nice little white Verdeco here as I sit in Andalusia, in Gaucine, alongside Brittany Earton in Los Angeles, California, and Mark Tuberty in his immaculate natural brickwork backdrop in Brooklyn. Mark, to you first.
Thank you. Cheers, Nick. I got to say, I feel like I'm so boring because it's always the same. It is a beautiful brick wall, but you guys keep it fresh every single week. There's like a where in the world is Carmen Sandiego vibe going on. So it's great to see you in that very romantically lit
San Diego, not Los Angeles.
Yes. Right.
But chivalry deserted me, as did geography this week, because Brittany is not in Los Angeles. It was muscle memory. She is in San Diego. How's it going down in Del Mar?
It's good. So this vacation for you must be a little less important than the last vacation where you couldn't join us on. I'm confused here. How do you decide?
It's not that. It's just a relaxed vibe. The children are in bed. It's a more convivial setting. You probably hear a few noises off. They're still eating because obviously we eat late here in Spain.
I love it.
I can just slide away from the table and join you for a bit of C&C.
I just saw the movie Jungle Cruise a few days ago, and I kind of feel like you're giving me some Jungle Cruise vibes. They were set in Brazil. You're in Spain. What part of Spain are you in?
South Spain. South of Spain. I'm about 45 minutes northwest of Marbella in Andalusia. Nearest town is Gaucine. We're up in the mountains here. I wish I could show you the view, which is spectacular, but I can't. But I'm hoping I'm giving you enough of the flavor anyway.
It's beautiful. And I would love to see Nick reenact Jungle Cruise as the host of the Jungle Cruise. I think that would probably sell more tickets than the current one. But I'm loving the ambiance there. Very, very moody, romantic, nice. I think we're in for a great show tonight.
I think we are. We've got a great guest, Brittany, as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I mean, she is. Am I allowed to cuss on this show?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm allowed to be in Spain, so you can cuss.
She's a badass boss. Let's just say that. Dora Delgado of the Breeders' Cup is joining us in just a bit, and she is, to me, a powerhouse female in the industry. I'm so excited to talk with her, hear about her backstory, which I don't know much about how she got to where she is today. But gosh, what a great example for any young kid wanting to break into the industry, but especially females. But before we get to that, you're wearing a very appropriate shirt, Mark Tuberty. What's on the menu today?
I was rummaging through my cabinet because I knew I had just the right shirt to make our Pina colada. Yeah, that's right. We weren't joking about it last week when Flavian Pratt said that it was his favorite cocktail 2 weeks ago, rather. I said, we got to make this happen. So yeah, we're going to be doing a Pina colada in just a moment. I hear it's also a favorite of Dora's too, if I'm not wrong.
I feel like I need a safari hat for this show.
Yes. For the Jungle Cruise, Brittany.
Do we like that one? Or which one's more Jungle Cruisy?
Let's have a look. I like the first one.
This one, a little more Panama style?
Actually, no.
It's tough. I wish we could give one of those to Nick. I know it's not physically possible.
Well, hang on. Give me one sec. Mike, I'm able to get my hands on one of those.
If you have a top hat with you, I swear, Nick, no.
No, it's got to be a Panama hat, right? Mark, remind everybody why we're drinking a Pina colada today, because that was maybe the highlight of our show a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, no, well, so we just introduced some great new segments in this show, and one of them is asking our guests what their favorite cocktail or mocktail is. So we had Flavian Pratt on the show, absolutely amazing guest. So great to hear his stories. But I think we were a little surprised, right, when we asked him what his favorite cocktail was, and he said the Pina colada. But I'm excited to get right into it if you guys are thirsty, because it's such a great cocktail. So I don't know. You're thirsty? I don't know about you guys, but in New York, we're starting, I think this is nationwide, we're starting to hit this pretty serious heat wave. And I have to tell you, it feels like the sun is literally right next to me. I don't know why, but it feels like the
Oh
sun
my
is
God.
right there. So hot
hang
here.
hang on.
Yeah.
Mark, stop showing off.
Much.
Mark, stop showing off. So first of all, we had the POV, and now we've got the CGI.
That's it. That's it. I'm just trying to build and layer and build and layer. But yeah, this makes me wish that I was underneath a beach umbrella somewhere, or surrounded by maybe palm trees, right? Where do we go to make that happen? Margaritaville? We could do Margaritaville, but why Margaritaville when we could go to Puerto Rico, for instance, and have a delicious pina colada? Because you know what they say, if you like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain, and if you're not into yoga yet, you know.
Are you going to bring rain into the situation? I mean,
no. That's it for the graphics. But so I did some research on the history of the pina colada, and there are a lot of tall tales out there. There's even one theory that it was created by a Puerto Rican pirate back in the early 1800s. But this drink, we don't have any factual evidence to any of this. But that's not really the point of the pina colada, right? It's escapism. It's having that perfect drink while you're on vacation, whether it's in Spain or Puerto Rico or Cuba or wherever you might go. It's a delicious drink, when we do it right. So that's what we are going to be making right
so
now.
Mark, what was the origin of the pina colada?
Well, so that's the interesting thing, is that the one theory says that it was this Puerto Rican pirate. So again, this kind of naval theme in a sense. And so they always had rum on board the ships. And they said that he combined it with pineapple and coconut for the sailors, which makes sense. If you're in the Caribbean, you naturally have your rum and you're using produce that's around you. But then the other stories go that it was created at a Hilton in Puerto Rico in 1950. So really, there's not too much kind of hard evidence as to when it was created, although a lot of speculation is that it was created in Puerto Rico, and it is actually the official drink of Puerto Rico, dating back to 1973. So, look at that. See, this is we're all vacationing right now.
It's gotta be this one. It can't
How
be
did that happen? So you've always wanted to see my wife on the show.
Yes.
Laura.
If you saw somebody walk across in a red dress behind that's about that's
waiting
you're gonna
for
get.
lovely Laura to play the piano and sing for us, but maybe our finale.
Yep, we'll get there. All right, guys. So you're going to notice.
Dorian Dickinson says, "I have confirmation that Mark has a wife."
Yes.
We had
So happy belated birthday to Dorian Dickinson. His birthday was yesterday, and I had the extreme pleasure of being able to celebrate with him, doing some virtual cocktails. Absolutely amazing time. The Dickinsons have been such great supporters of our show, as with so many of our viewers, making the drinks every week. So it was really nice to be able to make them in real time with him. But yeah, birthday yesterday. So big cheers to Dorian. Happy birthday again. Hopefully, I think they might be at the airport, but make a pina colada when you get home. You're going to notice that we have a different container here.
They're watching it from the airport. Happy birthday,
so. So guys, we're not using a cocktail shaker today or a stirring vessel.
Is that a neutral?
This is, yes, the bottom part of a ninja, basically. So we're going to be blending this cocktail, of course. Although the pina colada, you don't need to blend it. You can actually just do maybe coconut milk, some pineapple juice, a little lime juice, and rum. That is acceptable, but we are going to be doing the blended version today. First thing that we're going to need is about a half a cup of frozen pineapple. This is not so traditional, but the reason why I like doing this is it replaces some of the ice. And when we blend this, it's going to impart so much flavor and body to our cocktail, but without diluting it too much. So about a half a cup of that frozen pineapple going into the bottom half of my NutriBullet here. That's the pina part of the drink, but we need the colada part, kind of the coconut part.
All right, so what does pina mean?
Pineapple in Spanish.
Pineapple. All right, okay, fine.
Yep. And so now for the coco part, which is the coconut, right? This is kind of the colada part. We are going to be adding some cream of coconut. Now, this is a big thing, right? You've got coconut milk, you've got coconut cream. How is that different
than like coconut cream?
Yeah, very good question. So you've got coconut milk, which is unsweetened, right? But it's a thinner consistency. Then you have coconut cream, which is the thicker part of coconut milk. So similar to like regular milk and cream, it's thicker, but it's not sweetened. Cream of coconut, which is like the Coco Lopez brand right here, is sweetened. So that's a big difference right there. So if you're doing this blended version, look for the Coco Lopez. This is the standard in the industry for a pina colada. And we're going to want, in the recipe I said 2 ounces. I'm going to up that up to 2.5 ounces today. I want a little bit more coconut flavor in there.
A little bit sweeter.
A little bit sweeter. Yeah, I did a dry run earlier, and the pineapple overwhelms just a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and add another 1/2 ounce of the Coco Lopez.
The vibe we've got going here got me thinking, maybe we need themed shows. I mean, this is really nice.
I like it. This is, yeah, I feel like we're all on vacation with Nick.
Yeah, me too. Well,
listen, you're the only 2 people I would bring on vacation with me. So
that means a lot. And I think we should make that happen. We're going to have to figure out the destination.
Ooh.
Guys, now we're going to add a little bit of lime juice. Cut some of that sweetness from the coconut. A little bit of lime juice, only 1/2 ounce. Fresh lime, of course. And then right after that, we're going to be doing some rum. But if you want to do a virgin pina colada, you can go ahead and stop right here. Just the Coco Lopez, the frozen pineapple, and the lime juice. But let's add...
Mark, here's the thing for me. If you're going to have a virgin cocktail, and clearly there are a lot of people who would who don't want booze in their drinks, but if you're going to have a virgin cocktail, surely a pina colada wouldn't be a great one, because you need the booze to cut through the sweetness, don't you?
It is, yeah. I mean, this is
there's not enough sour or bitter to.
Yeah, this is definitely not the lightest calorie drink either. So you kind of feel like if you're going to be bad about it, you might as well go all the way. So yeah, I get what you're saying there. This is a drink that I think benefits from the rum. So yeah. I added 2 ounces of it. We're going to bolster that pina colada right now. Now, also in the recipe, I said just to go ahead and blend with pineapple. But again, I want it to be a little bit thicker. So we're going to add some ice, just a little bit of ice here to our NutriBullet.
Now, what if, like I told you earlier before we came on air, I think I'm allergic to rum. So no go for me. Is there a spirit I could replace rum with?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could do
Nick just doesn't think I'm allergic. Nick just thinks I've had a bad experience.
Yeah, it's that allergy. It's that allergy when you were, maybe in college and
Captain Morgan, maybe
had a night on too much rum.
Yeah,
I've had a similar experience. I realized I wasn't allergic to it.
But if you are in fact allergic, though, Brittany, you have a couple options. You could do something like tequila, which I mean, it's going to stand out a little bit more than the rum would, or you could go the other direction and do vodka. So you're going to be adding strength to it, but really the flavors of the pineapple and the coconut will shine very nicely on top of the vodka. So you can absolutely still do this, but yeah, just steer clear of the rum if it is actually an allergy for you. You don't want that to happen. So we're going to go ahead and blend this. I'm going to let you and Nick talk for, let's say, 15 to 20 seconds while I blend this.
We've got stuff to catch up on, Mark. You third wheel while we get down to business here. Right, Nick's go, Brittany. How impressive was this horse in the Whitney?
Sensational. I have to be honest. I wasn't really behind him going into this race. You got to be behind him coming out of that race. And Brad Cox saying he deserves every opportunity to go to the Breeders' Cup Classic based off of what he's done. So I'll be honest, in those classic rankings that Breeders' Cup puts together, I did not put him number 1, but I did still lift him up. I'm just not sure about the mile. Right.
So I did put him at number 1 because I felt I couldn't. Well, because it's all based on the fact that I had Maxfield at number 1 for the last 6 weeks.
I did too.
If I had Maxfield at number 1 for 6 weeks, Nick's Go's thumped him. How can I not put Nick's Go there? Now, whether I believe it or not. Who was
your number 2?
Say again.
Who was your number 2 behind Maxfield all this time?
I think it's there. I want to say the previous week it was Maxfield Essential Quality Hot Rod Charlie.
That's what I had. So I bumped them up.
I keep being tempted to put Hot Rod Charlie up and up and up.
Yeah.
Because I think he's this horse that no one really believes is as legitimate as he actually is. And I suspect come what may, he's going to run a huge race in the Breeders' Cup Classic. And I think I've got a feeling next week I might have to grow a pair and pop him up 2 or 3.
Oh, Jeff Paul says essential quality. He just wins. This is true. Mark, that looks delectable.
Thank you. Thank you. So here's what happened. The blender action must have knocked out one of my cameras. So that's why you can only see the drink right now. That's okay. I knew it was a danger when I plugged them into the same outlet. But you know what? It's okay. We can still see the star of the show, which is this beautiful frozen pina colada. We've garnished with a little pineapple and some maraschino cherries. So I wish I could actually look at you guys while I'm doing this, but I'm going to cheers from here, and then I'm going to fix my camera right up and unplug the blender because it clearly causes problems.
Yeah, I feel like the liquids near your computer, it's just all kind of an accident waiting to happen, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I knew it was a danger, but cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Let's a little bit of escapism right here with our frozen pina colada.
Mark, cheers. It looks absolutely delightful. And a little maraschino cherry on the top.
Oh, it's delicious too.
Oh,
maybe I'll rethink the rum thing just for a pina colada. I don't know.
Oh, so do you, I mean, if I was to say, do you believe Nick Go's the real deal, the most credentialed horse for the Breeders' Cup Classic? It sounds as though his performance the other day was simply an aberration, but we know it not to be an aberration because we know he's already bolted up in a Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, and we know that he's already produced 4, 5, 6 other performances of really high caliber. So do you believe him? Do you believe him to be the best horse in the United States at the moment?
If I'm being totally honest, no, I don't.
So why don't you believe it?
I can't put my finger on it other than I'm not sure he wants to go the distance with other horses pressing him on the front end. The Saudi Cup comes to my mind. And what happens if there is another horse right up there with him, breathing down his neck? Can he take them not just a mile and a length, but can he go a mile and a quarter? So that's my biggest question mark for him, whereas you look at a horse like Essential Quality and Hot Rod Charlie, yes, I understand they're 3 years old, but we know that they can go the distance, and we know that they can battle it out and are a little bit more tactical per se. Not tactical, that's not the right word, versatile than maybe Nick Go is.
Okay, no, I understand that. So Nick Go is a relatively, hang on, the waiter's here. Nick Go is a relatively one-dimensional horse, whereas you feel Maxfield is more that traditional type of horse that's got sort of slightly more tactical game. And
what is the drink of choice tonight? What was being shown off just there?
It's a very nice local Marquez de Riscal Verdeco 2020, 100% organic. So there we go.
I love it. You know, I'm drinking a new, and this is not an ad. This is a rosé by Usual Wines. Christina Blacker turned me onto it. It is completely clean, no sulfates. Basically, what that means is you won't really have a hangover tomorrow.
And you don't get a runny nose and start sneezing as soon as you start drinking it. I get it. And this is actually very nice. I mean, this is pretty cheap and cheerful, but it's local and it feels clean and crisp and very fresh. So
I feel like Nick could have just an entire show out there in Spain with people bringing him drinks and him showing them off. I love that. But that is not why we are here today. Right, Nick?
We are not here today. And I think it is time. Is it time, Brittany Earton, to welcome in our guest today?
It's time. We're actually 4 minutes past. Yes.
This is a Breeders' Cup show. And our guest today is, unless she is going to correct me, the longest standing employee of Breeders' Cup Limited. Having begun all the way back in the early 1980s, 83, as an administrative assistant. She has recently been named to Sports Business Journal's Game Changers list, which recognizes women in senior leadership roles across sports business, and has been responsible for promoting Breeders' Cup worldwide, not just as a brand, but also practically in terms of recognizing the foal and stallion nomination expansion. And she moved to her current role as Executive Vice President of Racing and Nominations in 2019. It's a remarkable career. It's a remarkable life. And it's shameful that we have waited this long to welcome into our show Dora Delgado. Dora, good evening.
Hi, guys.
Dora,
thanks for having me.
Not a bit. Thanks for having us. And
yeah, thank you for exactly for having us. Really, we wouldn't be here without anybody at Breeders' Cup. So we thank you.
Thanks. I feel like there might be a little bit of profiling though, because my husband is of Puerto Rican descent. So the pina colada was right up our alley.
All right, good.
I invented in Puerto Rico, Mark.
Okay, good. I read like five different stories at the same time. I said, I don't know which one is true, so I'm not going to put my neck on the line. But thank you for backing it up.
Fact checkers on this show for Mark. This is great. Thank you, Dora, for coming in and proving correct here.
That's what they tell me every time I go there anyway.
All right, good. And you made one tonight too, Dora?
I did.
Oh,
we bring back Baralito rum from Puerto Rico.
Oh, nice.
You know, since that's about the only place you can really get it. So
yeah. Oh, that's
we have
awesome.
a stockpile in case.
Oh, good.
How often do you travel there, Dora?
We go once. We used to go quite often, once a year. Obviously, we haven't done it this past couple of years, but we usually try to get down there in the springtime. He's got still some family down there, my husband, so we go down and spend a week or so.
I mean, it's so unusual nowadays in the modern workplace for someone to have such a long affiliation to one business, and like the Breeders' Cup isn't the Breeders' Cup without Dora, and Dora is not Dora without the Breeders' Cup. It's an amazing relationship you've got with this company. Do you ever look back and think, my God, how did this all start all the way back in the early 80s?
Frequently. I mean, it's interesting. When I started, I was really just looking for a part-time job over the summer. My aunt had interviewed. The Breeders' Cup was like literally just a thought at that time. We had taken up some offices in the basement of the Blood Horse, which was then a little tiny building over in Lexington on Alexandria Drive. And then they kind of stuck us down in the basement, with the archives. And I had gone in just to, have a little summer job and just kept going back and just, truly a work yourself up the corporate ladder scenario, from a data entry clerk to where I am now. But there's been such a passion for, the Breeders' Cup and there's not I learned along the way, there's not an ownership, but there's certainly an authorship along the way, where you've really contributed and you felt like you've made a difference.
And it seems to be. Go on. Sorry, Brett.
No, I was just going to say, you said it was just an idea when you first started, and to look at it now, what it's involved to is just truly remarkable. But what do you remember about those initial days with the Breeders' Cup, initial few years where the Breeders' Cup was happening, and what do you make of it today and how much it has evolved?
It was so small, and of course, DG Van Cleef. I mean, I just adore the man. He was a wonderful executive director. He got us off the ground, but we were literally in the kitchen of the office one day, saying, well, maybe we should call one of the races the Classic and maybe one the Distaff and, one the Juvenile. It's like, it was just so, a group of people coming together that had a really grand plan and just winging it, really trying to execute it. And it was a lot of fun, but it was a lot of, just, I hope this is going to work. I think some of it just had, we had the benefit of knowing that it hadn't been done before. So how bad could we really screw up? I mean, we could try things, and if it didn't work, we could try more things, so it was really creative. I know one of the things I always try to mentor young people in when they're coming into the business now is that, be a master of all trades, learn how to do everything along the way, because it all comes into play later. Like, I mean, I was, copying and pasting and creating ads and doing data entry and answering phones. I mean, you just did everything you had to do in order to pull it off. But that first event at Hollywood Park in 1984 was quite the one. I mean, you talk about winging it. We had the maitre d' up in the dining room, like selling tables that we had sold tickets to. So our ticketed guests would arrive and want to sit down at their table, and the maitre d' was taking money under the table and, selling them out from under them. It was crazy chaos, but it's been a fun ride.
Do you think that's given you confidence over the years that actually whatever happens, whatever situation you're in, and obviously the situation we were in last year, it could have ended up being a Breeders' Cup abandonment. Do you think that sense of that sort of buccaneering enterprise has stayed with the company, has enabled you to do things that maybe other companies wouldn't have been able to do?
I think so. And I think our board of directors, they're all, massive players in the industry. It's their money. We're the stewards of their money. We try to do it, be really responsible with it, and really responsive to what they want to do. And I think, we always keep challenging ourselves. What's the next best thing we can do? How do we elevate it even more? What are other events doing that we should take, note of and improve? So I think it's just a lot. It's given you a lot of freedom in that way.
Is it still really a collective environment? Like you're saying, you have the board of directors, but you started with, being around a kitchen table saying we should call it the classic and the distaff. Has that mentality and inclusivity for everyone within the company at all levels still remain to this day?
I think so. I think we've certainly had our challenges this past year with half the staff working from home. We ended up going, a few of us, back to the office in April or May of last year. So there was a lot of Zooms. Obviously, everybody got, really, really familiar with that. But that inclusivity of what we all are trying to achieve, it's really a big puzzle, and everybody's got a piece that they've got to put into it. If they don't put it in right, it's not going to work. So it just requires communication all the time, every time. We also have an office in New York. We have staff out in California. So we're constantly on the phone. We're constantly collaborating on issues and things we want to get done. And it just takes it takes a village, and it takes our village to always work together. And we also, we rely heavily on the host track. We're a fairly small company, so we come in, we bring a lot of people in that give up their vacation time to come work for us as contract labor. My event security team, my event veterinary team, all of our people that work in racing and ticketing and marketing and sponsorship, they all come together and give up their own time to come to the Breeders' Cup and help us get this event off the ground. So it's just a massive collaboration across the industry.
Dora, you talk about the home track, and obviously anyone that follows the Breeders' Cup know that changes each year. But what they might not know is what goes into deciding which track will host the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, we had a list, a grocery list, as you will. A long time ago, it had to be a big facility. It had to accommodate, turf and dirt at all our distances. It had to be able to have, as many people as we could pack in there. But when we started looking at smaller tracks and what we could, could we improve the quality of the experience versus the quantity of the experience? We looked at Monmouth when we expanded to the first 2-day event. We held it in New Jersey, and, those poor people, I think of poor Bobby Kalina and his team, and it just was a deluge, 40 days of rain. It was unbelievable, but they worked so hard to pull it off. When we took it to Keeneland, it's like, oh, this is a very small track. It's going to be so exclusive. But, if we can elevate the experience so that you have such a great experience while you're there, and we provide all these ways to watch it if you have to be remote, I think everybody can really enjoy it. It has kind of settled into a rotation now between West Coast and Midwest. We certainly hope to get back to New York. They've been planning some renovations, for the facility up there. So we're looking for that in the future.
So, Dora, what needs to happen in New York for a Breeders' Cup to be back there at some point?
The building, the infrastructure at Belmont is fairly old. They haven't really done a lot of renovations. The track itself is beautiful. The grounds are gorgeous. The barn areas are humongous. What we need are more elevated experiences for the guests, more suites, more dining rooms. There's no heat there. So, just some upgrades to that. And as soon as they're ready for us, we'll be back.
I'm obviously biased because I'm out here on the West Coast, and Santa Anita is just one of my favorite venues. But when you talk about the smaller ones, obviously it's at Del Mar this year. Were there any hesitations to having it at Del Mar, another small venue like Keeneland, or was it a matter of we get down here, that the city loves racing, we'll figure it out along the way?
It was. We had some trepidation going into it the first time in 2017. We were just like, I don't know how this is going to happen. But honestly, they worked so hard. We all worked so hard. And the people that went to that event said it was, bar none, one of the best they'd ever attended. So it was a natural fit to say, yeah, we're going to go back, just like we were going to go back to Keeneland, because the people there and the facilities there just, they embraced the Breeders' Cup. They They loved everything about it, and they bought tickets and they bet with both hands, and it was just an unqualified success.
And are there venues, Dora, that you in your heart of hearts would love to see this event go to that we haven't explored yet?
We've been a lot of places. There's not many left that we haven't been. We tried Lone Star. We did Arlington.
Someone just mentioned Lone Star. They said they loved it. They said the year we had massive seating all around the track. They loved that. It evolved to the smaller tracks.
That was one of the first times we did like chalets all the way around because the footprint was so small. And people absolutely loved the Texas experience. The Europeans that came to that event and went down to Fort Worth and got belt buckles and cowboy boots and hats and went to Billy Bob's and saw Willie Nelson. They talk about it to this day. It was the best event they've ever been to. I really enjoyed Woodbine. That was a lot of fun to go across the border, even though logistically it was a nightmare. Trying to get goods over the border and back in, trying to get jockeys over with, had to have work visas at the time. So that was a lot of challenges, but it was really fun. I don't think there's too many places left in the U.S. that we'd like to have it again. I mean, we would have loved to had it at Gulfstream had the footprint not changed so drastically there. That was always a really nice venue. There was a lot of talk about Hialeah for years on, if somebody would buy it and really get it back up to speed. But, the facilities and the people that we're dealing with now between Churchill, Santa Anita, Del Mar, and Keeneland are just superstars, and they really go out of their way to make sure we have a great event.
Well, I vote Lone Star purely to see Nick Luck in a cowboy hat and a belt buckle. I think that would be a sight.
I can see it. I can envision it right now.
I can envision it too. Dora, your heart and your upbringing was really in racing, as your grandfather was a trainer. So how involved were you with racing and horses prior to even working with the Breeders' Cup?
So yeah, my grandfather was Tony Basil. He trained for Boamazon Farm here in Kentucky, and we spent, every summer and spring break and any time off from school visiting him where he was running at, obviously at Keeneland, but at Monmouth and Arlington. We spent a lot of time there at Gulfstream. So we were, kind of like little gypsies following him around, and it was just such a great education. Brittany, in a racing family, you go out to dinner with your owners and your clients. You learn how to behave out in public when you're, a kid, and you just get such invaluable lessons along the way. It was really that kind of experience. They'd spend every spring down in Aiken at the spring trials down in South Carolina, and they had an apartment over the barn. So we'd go down there, and you talk about heaven, just sleeping over horses and hearing them nicker and stomp their feet and stuff. It was magical to a teenage girl, right? I was all into it. So, it was a natural fit for me. I don't know that would have been my direction had I not just kind of lucked into the job, as thinking, well, this will fill some time until I go back to school in the fall. But I wouldn't change a minute of it for sure.
Oh, what an amazing journey it's been. I said at the beginning of the show that one of the major areas that you've been instrumental in is evolving the international participation of the event. What was it about that really captured you, early on that made you want to make that a significant part of it?
It's a vital and critical part of the Breeders' Cup that our World Championships encompasses the world. So one of the things that I did along the way was change our stallion nomination program. I disbanded the agreement with the EBF because it wasn't really suiting our purposes. And that was the European Breeders' Fund. We had kind of a cross-registration agreement with them. And I disbanded that and created the International Stallion Program. That took us from having about 1,200 foals nominated annually from international areas to over 21,000 eligible automatically. And what that did was it removed the impediment of having to supplement to the Breeders' Cup races at high nomination fees, which at the time were around $120,000. So, instead their stallion gets nominated, they get in for free. And now we've opened up the doors to more world competition. We're also in Japan, South Africa, South America. So it's truly a global event. What has always appealed to me is the logistics and the operations. I really like the behind the scenes stuff. That's what I excel at. I feel like, I've always really tried to get to the nuts and bolts of how things happen and how to make them better, take them all apart, put them back together, so that The internationals are challenging. You know, between the United States Department of Agriculture, we build a quarantine facility actually at the track. It takes up to 6 units to have each shipment arrive and keep its own separate quarantine. They get blood, they get temperatures; those are all cleared, and then they're released into an isolation status where they can now go run. So the whole environment of getting our shipping agents working together, getting the USDA, our international liaisons, our good friends at the IRB, all of it works together to make sure that those people can get here, the horses can get here. And of course, last year I had to become an expert in Homeland Security on top of, you know, USDA regulations, because there was a presidential proclamation, which is still in effect today, banning travelers from European locations. So we ended up getting, we were able to get athletic waivers to get a lot of those people, the grooms, the trainers, the vets, everybody over here to take care of their horses at Keeneland.
There may have been an occasional broadcaster sliding into that.
I wish.
Dora, I'm not the horse racing expert that the three of you are, but for me, one of the most exciting parts of the build-up to the Breeders' Cup is the win and you're in races. So I don't know, has that always been a part of the Breeders' Cup culture, or do you remember the genesis of that idea or how that came about?
You know, what we had originally back in the day when we first got started, when John Gaines came up with the idea, it was one day, it was going to be the Super Bowl of thoroughbred racing. Day, 7 races, $10 million. The world never seen anything like it. And which was really good, and everybody was behind it. But in order to get it funded, they had to really bring in the stallion and breeding farms. And they wanted a year-long program. They didn't want just one day. So we created a stakes program. And what it did was it took a lot of money and it just distributed it in like 400 races around the country. You might have $2,500 on a race or $50,000 on a race. But there was no connection between those races and the Breeders' Cup World Championships. So in 2007, we started creating the Win and You're In program, which just really resonated with trainers, with owners. They had an ability to get an automatic selection, free entry fees, a travel. I mean, it was like winning the sweepstakes, and it just really resonated with them, and it provided that connection we needed between the horses that were racing throughout the year and then coming to the Breeders' Cup. So by 2010, we had really done away with the nominator stakes program that was in place and had replaced it all with Win and You're In. We have 84 races around the globe today.
Awesome.
It's unbelievable. And I can speak on behalf of, the trainers, at least my dad. They point towards these races. It really has become a focal point for horsemen, horsewomen, and owners alike, working backwards from the Breeders' Cup. And how can we guarantee us not only a spot, but get our fees paid as well? So constantly in speaking with them, these are the races that they're pointing to. And, Nick and I are lucky enough to be able to be on site and broadcast a lot of them so people can attach themselves to these horses even before the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I
think
perfect brand. I was going to say, Nick, it's a perfect branding vehicle. It has the ability now, that we can put them on NBC. You can see horse racing throughout the year, rather than just, tuning in on the internet and some of the other channels. You've got some nationally broadcast shows to really capture the fans' imagination.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Dora, what I was going to say from an international perspective is that the Win and You're In, it enhances the reputation of the event. When somebody wins one of those races, suddenly the Breeders' Cup automatically becomes a conversation point. So whereas it might have been in someone's mind or part of somebody's plan beforehand, the fact that it's a Breeders' Cup Win and You're In or part of the Breeders' Cup Challenge Series means that it's immediately thrust into their consciousness, and then they start thinking about it more and more and more.
Right.
I think from an international and European perspective, that's incredibly important. And I think it's really kind of just enhanced the prestige of the event here through the year, and you've seen it in the last 2, 3, 4 years. European participation being really, really strong, and you go back to Monmouth Park in 2007, which you mentioned at the top of the show, where there were no European winners, and everybody said, well, nobody wants to go to the Breeders' Cup anymore. It's a thing of the past. Well, suddenly everybody wants to go to the Breeders' Cup again. I mean, how much satisfaction does that give you to see the event kind of turned around in terms of international perception?
It's amazing, you know, and we really pay a lot of attention to it. I mean, we really do. We have a whole team that's dedicated just to making sure our internationals have the way smooth for them, that they have all the information that they need. We've got such a great team in racing and customer service that really reach out at every opportunity. But I mean, having that international component is what makes the Breeders' Cup the Breeders' Cup. You know, it's something that everybody, you know, like you said, shoots for and places it as their year-end target. They're a superstitious lot. We don't like to get into, you know, definitely saying we're coming as soon as we win a year-end. That's you know, we don't like to do that, but we do. You know, they will eventually, you know, fess up that that's their year-end target, and that's what they're looking for.
Maybe we can move it from the Super Bowl of horse racing to the Olympics of horse racing, because it truly is an international event. We've got rapid fire questions for you, but before we get to that, anyone watching now would quickly know why you were given such a prestigious honor earlier this week. Nick mentioned it at the top of the show. You were named to Sports Business Journal's Game Changers, which recognizes women in senior leadership roles across sports business. First and foremost, congratulations. What was your initial feeling and response when you heard of such an honor, Vivian?
You know, I was just absolutely floored. You know, it's rare for racing to rise to that level where it's recognized on that kind of sports footing with, you know, the NBA and NFL, soccer, basketball, baseball, everything. So it was just a huge honor, and it's really nice to be recognized for the contributions I feel that I've made, and I you know, I keep trying to make. It's such an evolving game. We're in a point, I think, in thoroughbred racing where it's so rapid fire. Things are happening, and they're happening in such a great direction, and, you know, good for women, good for horses, good for aftercare, good for everything. And it's really just, I'm so happy to be a part of it.
Well, it is much deserved. Nick and I can all say it from having known you for quite some time that you work your, I'll say this again, ass off and get every accolade. It is much deserved. So cheers to you, Dora.
Thank you. It's a great love for sure.
And I was going to say, you know, Dora, there have been so many people representing Breeders' Cup, you know, who have been public facing and in the limelight and in the spotlight down the years. You've been there since 1983, 4, and have been, you know, flying the flag, but kind of, you know, not necessarily thrusting yourself to the foreground. But your absolute passion and love for the sport is what has, I guess, sustained you in that time. It's all about the horses. It's all about the racing rather than the, you know, the glitz.
It is. It's a passion of mine for, you know, to have good racing, safe racing that's, you know, when you finish watching a Breeders' Cup, that she's like, my gosh, that was the best I've ever seen. You know, I mean, I want people to come away with it with just a sense of awe of the performances, but both human and athlete. And I think, you know, it's what we all work for every day.
And you mentioned that the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance and the aftercare responsibility that the racing industry has. I mean, how big a part of your role has that become over the last 5-10 years?
Well, you know, I sit on the board of the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance, and it's really a passion of mine. I think, you know, it's our responsibility. It's our duty to these horses that give us so much. There are so many worthy organizations. And the one thing about TAA that just rises above that is that they are the umbrella, you know, organization, and they accredit others so that you don't wind up with horses in a bad situation. There's checks and balances, and there's points where these horses don't fall through the cracks. So it's critically important for everybody in the industry to give what they can.
I think it is worth noting, and for those that you know, follow the sport, they know what, you know, care and safety goes into all of these horses running on two of the biggest racing stages in the world. But the behind the scenes, I don't think people see as much. You hold a meeting for everybody in lead up to the event. It's veterinarians, it is track superintendents, the media is there, and you go over everything that horses have been through in that lead up in months before. How important has that meeting been for you, and just the progress in terms of safety on the track?
It's, we created the veterinary team out of an incident that happened at Belmont, where we had several horses throughout the day have accidents. It was through no fault of the track or anybody associated with it. It was just a strange, weird coincidence. But out of that came this desire to look at horses more than just the morning of, right? We needed more eyes on them, especially at the Breeders' Cup, because they were coming from everywhere, all different directions. They were coming from international locations. They were coming from the East Coast to the West. So we had to have more eyes on them and for a longer period of time. So we created the veterinary team, and they are there for a week. They look at all of the horses. They look at their past performances. They review videotapes. They do hands-on inspections in the stalls, out of the stalls, on the track. They try to make sure that if there's anything developing, they've got a team that's assigned to that horse that week and that will monitor those developments. They also do the injury management program on track. And, if there is any kind of incident and a horse needs to be pulled up, they honestly, they respond like NASCAR. They're a well-oiled machine. They practice it. They have meeting after meeting. They've really checked off every contingency, what could happen, and it's really important. We hope that we serve as a model to other tracks and other organizations to form their own teams like that. We created the out of competition testing program in 2007, one of the first organizations to do that. Last year we tested 100% of the runners, and nearly every trainer had at least one horse in his barn tested in the 6 months leading up to it. So, we've kept a real tight rein on that. It's very important to us that our event run clean, that these horses are monitored and made sure that they're in the best physical health. And to that extent, we hire an equine security team, and those investigators and those officers watch those horses for 72 hours to 96 hours out, monitoring who goes in the stall, who comes out. They log it. It's a lot of logistics that come together to make sure that those horses are going to go to the track in perfect physical condition. And so we love to share that with the media and with NBC to make sure that message gets out, that they didn't just show up here to run, a couple hours before.
I think that's important, Go ahead.
Yeah, no, Dora, you've raised a really interesting point, and one that I hadn't really considered fully before you sort of touched on it. Obviously, we've heard so much about different jurisdictions having different regulations. How challenging has it been for Breeders' Cup to impose its own regulations and to ensure that its place as the showcase for American horse racing around the world is secure and replete with the integrity that is demanded of it?
Right. Well, we're a big proponent of adoption of the model rules. In some places where those model rules have not been adopted, but we want stronger rules in place, we do come in and make those a condition of our entry. So we discovered a long time ago, if we're going to have an event that's gonna uphold our standards, we better put the rules in place that give us that comfort level. So if the state or regulatory authority doesn't have them in place, we'll put them in place to make sure that we're running at the highest standards possible. That's why we're really excited, honestly, about HISA coming to fruition next year. The uniformity is really necessary across state lines. We really need it in racing. We need to know that everybody's going to be under the same banner of health, security, and safety.
Yeah, Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Act, for those that don't know, implemented July, I believe, of next year. Zora, it will go into so July of 2022. We've asked you all the tough questions. Can we have some fun now?
Sure.
Yeah, something new that we've kind of implemented into the show I guess it would be 2 weeks ago. And out of it, wait, no, don't start the clock yet. I'm not ready.
Tell me what we're doing first.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Ooh, 2:04. Interesting. Rapid fire questions. I'll start. Okay. What do you like to do in your spare time away from the track?
Spare time away from the track. Read mostly. If I have spare time, yes, read.
Oh, I'm gonna add one favorite book. That's not on the list.
Anything by Stephen King, a big fan.
Okay.
All right. I can't believe I'm actually asking you this, Dora, but it says here, what is your favorite pizza topping? So I'm asking.
Pepperoni.
All right.
Do you have any pets?
I have 2 corgis and a mutt.
What are their names?
Todd, Oliver, and Gurr.
Todd.
That's the mutt. Favorite restaurant to visit in Lexington?
Well, I think it's going to be Frank and Dino's as soon as they get open. I love the Italian food. I love Carlo's place down in Boca Raton, so I can't wait till it opens.
What's your favorite song?
Oh, that's a tough one. Favorite song? I don't know. I'm not a real big music fan. Anything by Sting. I love Sting.
Okay.
Who is your biggest hero?
Oh, good gravy. Hero. I guess, honestly, like I think astronauts. I don't have any particular, but I think people that strap themselves to a rocket and shoot out into space are just a whole nother breed of human.
That's a great answer. What sports teams do you cheer for?
University of Kentucky Wildcats.
Coolers.
Yeah. Go Big Blue. Do you have a favorite cocktail or mocktail?
I love a good glass of Chardonnay, and I am particularly fond of the Pina colada, as has already been mentioned.
There you go.
This one's fun. Favorite racetrack food. I skipped forward.
Sorry.
Favorite racetrack food.
Oh gosh. I love the burgoo at Keeneland. It's just, it's a hometown favorite.
All right. And the last question, Dora, and it's the best question. If you could have a dinner with anyone in the world, alive or dead, who would it be?
Wow. Golly, I should have prepped a little better for these.
That's the whole point. You can't prep.
Don't say Nick Luck, because we'll know that you're lying.
I would like to have, I'd like to sit down with Barack Obama. I thought he was a pretty cool individual.
Mm-hmm. What would you ask him? This was just a bonus question. What do you think you'd ask him?
How hard was it really being, the first Black president? Because I think the man had some big ones to have to pull that one off, to be honest.
I know we need to let you go. We've taken so much of your time, but I just wanted to leave our viewers with one more because
I've got one too.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, because we have seen this industry in the past, and I'd like to think it's changing, be dominated by males. And you have been in this industry for a very long time. Like I said, I love to see that it's changing. So many more females in all aspects of this industry. For you, what advice would you give a young girl or young boy wanting to get into the sport?
I think what I had mentioned earlier, get those entry level positions if that's what's available. Get your foot in the door. Just make yourself indispensable. I mean, honestly, some of the recent questions I've had from women in the industry is, how do I break that ceiling? But getting the work done, being the person that has the knowledge and the skill set will pay off eventually. You may not be the flash in the pan. It may not be the first person that they come to right now. I think it's changing. I think we're having a moment for sure. I think, but it's but be there, be ready to take that spot and be ready with all the answers. I mean, that's how I've gotten where I am. I make it a point of making sure I know what I'm talking about at all times. And if I don't, I go find it out, so I think there's a certain thing in the industry where, the women are kind of expected to get all the work done, and the men will be in front of the cameras and doing the interviews. I mean, it's just the way it's been. So that's definitely got to change. We got to put more women out there. They're the ones that have the information. If they've got the knowledge, if they've got the skills, then let them, take take their position at the forefront.
But here, I still do have one other question, but just quickly off the back of that, Dora, do you think that ceiling that you talk about is getting lower? Is the ceiling lowering?
I do. I think, when we see, Keeneland putting a president in place, Shannon Arvin, I think, when I'm getting, this game changer award, that was just, completely unbelievable. And I'm so honored to it. I think there's Jill Burns running Colonial Downs, Georgiana Hale. There's so many women in this industry. Amy Zimmerman is a rock star out at Santa Anita. Just start giving, women where they're due and letting them, reap the benefits of the knowledge and the skills they brought to an organization instead of always having them behind the scenes. I think the industry will be a lot better off.
For sure. And I couldn't let you go without asking you, as someone who has been more intimately involved with every Breeders' Cup than any other human being there is on this planet, and that is fact. There is nobody who has a greater knowledge, a more encyclopedic knowledge of this great event that has become such an important part of the tapestry of many of our lives. If there was one day you could just bottle and take with you forever, which would it be from all those that you've enjoyed so far?
The one that stands out the most to me is Zenyatta at Churchill Downs.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. She came into the paddock like a rock star. There were 72,000 people, there over the weekend. And I swear all of them were trying to get into the paddock because it's the first time I've ever had to just close it down, like shut it down. Not another person's coming in here. She was just magnificent. Just extending those legs and the flash bulbs were going off. It truly was like a rock star moment. And it has just really sat with me all these years. And even though she came up short that day, it did nothing to diminish her legacy. And it's just one of those things that just stick in my mind forever.
I feel it could have bolstered her reputation, in my opinion. Such a remarkable run. I have chills you even mentioning it.
I know. It's just, me too, every time. And as a matter of fact, every time I listen to the call and there's like Zenyatta Blaine, I'm like, she's going to get there this time. I just know it.
And there was something about that call because you knew, obviously the call is not supposed to be partisan, but because you knew Denman was a West Coast guy.
Yeah.
And the way that he intoned blame in the last syllable of his call, there was something quite brilliant and tragic about it at the same time. I remember being down in the winner's circle, and people just I've never seen what I would call that headless chicken effect at a sporting event like it. People were running around in all directions under the floodlights in the freezing cold. Not really knowing where to go and what to do with themselves. And then you'd look up at the stand and there were, 4 dozen people in tears.
Oh, weeping. People were weeping. It was
and then there'd be like a little portion of people cheering, and there'd be people running all over the shop. They didn't know where they were running, and Mike Smith didn't know what to do with himself. It was the most intense piece of sporting theatre you could possibly imagine.
Absolutely, hands down. It does. Like Brittany said, it gives me chills to this day. It was unbelievable.
I wasn't even there. I wasn't there when she ran in either of the classics, but I remember it like it was yesterday, watching it. And I remember the call when she won, like it was yesterday. It's one of the most iconic calls, I think, in all of horse racing. But we don't see many horses like her, do we? And maybe we shouldn't.
Yeah, I was just thinking about this earlier today, that some of the most iconic performances at Breeders' Cup have been by females. Goldakova winning 3, just hasn't been equal since. Personal Ensign battling, the Derby winning colors to the wire in just the most miserable conditions at Churchill Down, and then going on to produce My Flag, a Breeders' Cup winner, who then produced her own Breeders' Cup winner, Storm Flag Flying. There's just been incredible stories along the way in the Breeders' Cup, and it's somebody should write a book. We should do that.
How has it not been done yet? I don't know. We're trying to get our own cocktail book made over here. So.
There we go. There we go.
It's gonna happen. I think maybe Dora, you should be the one to write that book,
I think-
though. No one has the experiences
can-
like you do.
Well, I got some stories. I got some stories.
But Dora,
Is
are
this
any
you
of them?
saying you're writing a book currently?
I'll never tell.
Breaking news. No.
Published later.
Listen, thank you so much for being with us this evening. I can only apologize. We've taken this long to get you on this show, and it's been a great part of our lives. But however important the Breeders' Cup is to so many people, it can never mean as much as it does to you. And so, Dora, thank you for everything. Thank you for all the memories, and thank you for being with us this evening.
Thank you so much for having me. I've had a great time. Cheers.
Cheers, Dora.
Cheers, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
Amazing.
I mean, that is if there's an organization you'd like to work for that long, and all those dramatic moments, it's not a bad gig.
No, and there's a reason, people stay in an organization for as long as they do, and you can tell that it's meant the world to her to see how not just the sport not just how Breeders' Cup has evolved, but how the sport has evolved as well, and how she's been a part of that. Could you imagine seeing your ideas come to fruition and knowing that you've been a part of change?
And also that change, maybe that idea that change isn't quite as difficult as people think it is. The idea that there was just a group of like-minded people, yes, with finance behind them, yes, with money behind them, yes, with influential people behind them, in the first instance, who said, right, well, let's do this, this, and this, and the sheer force of willpower made it happen. It wasn't that hard, and they end up affecting the most important international horse racing event that's been instigated in the modern era. Everything that's not part of the Triple Crown or goes on at Saratoga or is the Epsom Derby or the Melbourne Cup or whatever. It's something that's actually been implemented fairly recently that has, in horse racing terms, that has taken it by storm. The Breeders' Cup should be an example to so many events.
No, it should. And hey, I know this is a Breeders' Cup show, but we honestly mean what we're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not. This isn't it. You have to sit and think about it to realize that, because we take it for granted that it's just a part of our lives and that it's Breeders' Cup, whatever. It's only been going since 1984.
It's remarkable too to just see what it has turned into. Granted, it was before I was born.
Yeah, unlike Dora, I've only been to 2 in person, but the last one was at Santa Anita in 2019, and I was just completely blown away by the majesty of the whole event, and just how excited people get, and there's so much that really goes into that. So I'm excited that we're doing this new segment on the show, Unsung Heroes, because as Dora could tell you, there are so many aspects that come together to create that experience when we go to the track. Right. So when you go to a place like Santa Anita, for instance, it's so easy to get impressed, right, by the beautiful views.
Nick, you're missing this.
The majesty of the horses themselves, the competition, of course, that's so thrilling that we all get ramped up for. But whether you win or lose, you're probably going to end up more or less at the same place, right? Probably one of the many bars that are throughout the track, but not just the bars. There's all the concessions. There's the restaurants. All the concession stands. So many people have a hand in making the experience memorable from the time you arrive to the time that you leave. And I can tell you personally, within the hospitality industry, there are so many hardworking individuals that don't always get the credit that they deserve. So for me, for this unsung hero moment today, I want to draw attention to those hospitality workers, the people that work those concession stands, that serve you the food and the drinks, whether you're celebrating or commiserating, they're there for you. They're working so hard. So it's amazing that from the very start of this show, we have been supporting the Restaurant Employee Relief Fund. They have now raised over $21.5 million. Thank you to all of our viewers for continuing to support that fund and support hospitality workers both in the tracks and everywhere else. So for our unsung hero moment today, so grateful to all the people that work behind the scenes to keep us well fed and with our drinks for wins and losses and everything in between.
Mark, that extra shot was beautiful. Go to eliteinitiative.org to support, and we hope you do. And also, Breeders' Cup Charity still taking in donations as well. That was wonderful. Puts to shame anything Nick and I have ever done.
Well, you
not at all.
I mean, without Mark Tuberty, this show is nothing.
That's not true.
It's just conversation, and even that would be stale. So
No.
Exactly that. And to keep you in shirts like that, Mark,
more tropical cocktails.
Oh, exactly.
Right?
No shirts and tropical cocktails. You're looking a bit more kind of centered tonight, not so sweaty. Has it cooled down a bit in Brooklyn?
I'm sweaty. What's going on?
Despite the sun, that's right. No, I don't know if it's cooling down, but I think the pina colada helped. So another one might be in order, but and that was so cool. That was one of Dora's favorites as well. Hers looks beautiful, so she was definitely joining us on our virtual vacation today, which I think, like you said, Brittany, is kind of the theme of the show. So maybe more themes to come, but we'll see. Yeah.
Maybe we'll just have Nick travel the world and take us to somewhere magical, and we'll base.
I love that. Morocco next.
Yes.
I've got to say, this is pretty magical.
It is.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, what's been the highlight of your trip thus far, Nick?
We had a beautiful day today. So there's 14 of us staying here.
They're being very quiet for 14 people.
Yeah.
9 of them are significantly underage. So there's 5 grown-ups and 9 kids. So me and my good old school friends, Guy and Mike, we and our wives are here with between us our 9 children. So all the kids are in bed. They range from 12 to 3. Mm-hmm. And so they've been quite quiet because it's now 7 minutes past midnight in Spain. They pushed the show, back to help me out, and then I moved to another time zone that's an hour.
So it didn't help you at all.
We'll be doing your next show from Australia. We're gonna have to do it a day earlier.
It didn't really help me at all, but no, it's been idyllic, and we've all been out today on off the coast and on boats and seeing dolphins, and it was lovely. It was good. It was awesome. Great. It's been a very beautiful experience so far. So at some point, I got to plug my brain in and go home, and then get back to York next week, where we've got 3 win and you're in races for the Breeders' Cup. So very much looking forward to that. And the John International promises to be an absolutely tremendous race.
Sure.
All the horses that we want to turn up. So fingers crossed.
Well, you have a lovely time in Spain. It looks like it's been magical thus far. Thank you for bringing us into your newest location. And Mark, the tropical cocktails, shirt, background, everything. I mean, you really have done yourself today.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Signing off from San Diego. Coming up next, Got Stormy in the 4-Star Day, which is coming up this week from Saratoga. A win and you're in. Let's take a look.
Is that like coming up next on NBCSN is Big Bass Fishing?
Yeah. Did you like it?
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, coming up next is Got Stormy in the 4-Star Day.
The first female to ever win the race. Roll cue.
In the 4-Star Dave, and it is Got Stormy and Gitu. And Gitu grabs the front. And then it's Dr. Edgar who takes second. Got Stormy is taken back to third. And then Major Look going up on the outside. Crumpus is next and racing about 6 or 7 lengths off the lead as March to the Arch saves all the ground. And Ostilio goes wide into that turn. Then Hembry and Uni and Raging Bull as the trailer is Gitu rockets along through a 22.65 quarter, opening up 6 lengths onto the backstretch. With Dr. Edgar running in second position, Major Look is third by another 3, then Ostilio in fourth. Then Got Stormy on the inside. Crumpus March to the Arch. Uni is down toward the rail, and she's racing about 13 lengths off the lead right now. And then it's Hembry and Raging Bull. The half mile was 44.61 seconds. It is Guido playing Catch Me If You Can. He's got an 8-length lead as he motors round the far turn. And then it's Made You Look in second. Dr. Edgar is third by another 3. Then Got Stormy on the inside, who's moving well from 4th. Ostilio's under a lot of pressure. Meanwhile, Uni's at the back of the pack. And Gaidu turns for home in front. Made You Look now moves up right alongside after 3 quarters in 108.36 and grabs the front. Got Stormy is finishing fast. March to the Arch is charging in. Uni is 2. But as they come to the final 16th, Got Stormy has taken the lead. And Got Stormy, the filly, did it in the 4-star Dave. And then a photo, Raging Bull and Stablemate Uni, and March to the Arch between them. The course